Hey YouTube, this is TCA Gaming. This video we've got a few purchases that I've made, one from eBay, one from someone that I've been in contact for a while, and then I'm also going to touch on our first submission for the paid promotion where I open your stuff, put it on YouTube, and then I send it back. So I'm going to give you a little intro to that. We're not actually going to open that up in this video. It's going to be a premiere, but we're going to go over that at the end of the video. First, we're going to go over, everything that I bought this past week that I thought would be pretty cool to show. So my question for you is, what would you like to see opened up on this channel? So if you'd like another Team Rocket box, that's what you would put, or a base first edition box, or Dragon Frontiers, or something cool like that. So just leave your comment down below, and maybe I can start working towards, what everyone seems to want. So the first thing I'm going to go over is a purchase that I made, in which, if you look at these cards, it might seem like it's just your run-of-the-mill fossil non-holographic cards, but in reality, if you look at the bottom corner, these are dated 1999-2000, which is a very rare and hard to find print run of the original fossil set. It was printed in Australia, so you could only get these from the red logo booster packs, which if you see any of these on eBay, usually they run $200 to $300. Really just depends. These are the packs that you want non-holographic cards out of. You don't want the holo, because the holo is still going to be dated 1999, so it's no different than the regular run set card. But the rares from this set are $100, $150, sometimes maybe more. And I got these off of a guy who had put a comment, I believe, in one of my YouTube videos, and then he linked me to it, and I checked it out. And yeah, I ended up making them offer of $1,000 for all 15, and he sent it to me. And overall, they're in really good shape. The only one that was off was, I'm trying to flash over it, there's a crease right here on this one, which I noticed it when I was flashing the back side down on here, and then you can actually see the crease on the front left over there. But overall, these cards are in really good shape. I was super happy with it. I went ahead and left in positive feedback, because I think he described all of them as near mint, except for the Psyduck, which really wasn't valuable anyways. And then the Ditto he described as near mint. And that was just because it had a little tiny white nick up top. But everything else, I'm going to probably send a PSA. I think that they're really good candidates to get a PSA 10, and I don't have a PSA 10 set of these. In fact, I don't know if anyone does. I'm sure there is a few people out there who have, but for me, this is only my second 1999-2000 fossil set, so I'm looking forward to trying to get a PSA 10 set out of them. Okay, so this was the small purchase. The bigger purchase is actually dealing with all of these PSA cards in the background, and then some of you may have noticed over here in the back right corner, there are two 5,000 count boxes, in which I'm not going to go into everything in there, but most of what you're seeing here is base set. And just to give you an example of what's in there, this guy, he opened up a lot of base set boxes, and his back stock he just stuck in sleeves, and he sorted it and left it in boxes. So I mean, he's got like just countless rares, commons, uncommons, so forth. I mean, you see how many just Beedrills he had right there. I mean, I think there was like at least 35 of every uncommon. Well, I think it was actually like 50 of every uncommon, 80 of every common. It was 25 of the rare trainers, 35 of the uncommon trainers. I mean, it's just nuts. It was kind of like buying my own back stock over again, but he put the rares in there as well, because usually I'm sold out of rares. But in addition to that, he had lots of other stuff too. So these were the holos that when I went through them, I didn't really see them as pack fresh. Most of the stuff was sold to me as pack fresh, and so what I went through is I pulled out all the cards that I thought would be still good for grading. And the other one, like the ones that I'm going to show you in this deck, I don't think are good for grading, even though they may indeed be pack fresh or close to near mint condition. He told me ahead of time he thought that these really weren't his 10s. They were kind of like the 8s that were left over out of these boxes. And I get that. There were a few cards I can tell weren't from the pack, but for the most part, it was a really stout collection, minty cards. So I'm going to just glaze through them. These aren't in cases because they're definitely not near mint, and I'm going to go back in and I'll regrade them a little bit more harsh myself before I put them on eBay or anywhere. And just look at those holos. All of these are Wizards of the Coast stuff. I'm going to probably grab a smaller stack when I do some of the the more minty stuff when I show you there, when I get to them. I kind of like this Nidoking. If you look at it, it's got some kind of weird coloration thing going on. I didn't think it was the border, because if you look at the edge, I mean, those are all pretty close, but then it's the color itself is off. So that might go in my personal collection just because it has something different with it. A lot of people collect the unique cards that you can find in a set, and there's certain things like Pikachu, Gyarados, Charizard that if it's unique in any way, there's so many collectors that's going to jump on it that you can get usually a premium price for something that's different. I pulled out a handful of cards that I thought were OC enough, like off-center enough, that they may be able to get a qualifier if I send them to PSA. And it may not always be on the front side, like some of them may be off on the back side enough. You can tell from the left to the right. This Mewtwo shifted to the right. I can tell, I'm trying to look through the camera, it's a lot harder to see for you guys, unless I zoom in on it, kind of stop. But for the most part, these are off center, and they are minty, so I'm going to still try and send them off to PSA. I'm going to point this down just a little bit so I can rest my fingers in between. There's a lot of cards here. Like, let me just pull over one of the stacks. There's 2 stacks. This is all just mint, mostly base, but there's jungle and some fossil and stuff like that in there. These are all going to go straight to PSA. He said they come out of the pack. Well, of course, Machamp wouldn't have, but he didn't think that they would have a chance at a PSA 10, so he just stuck them in there. He had them in a sleeve and in a top loader, and then just, I guess he put them in a 5-row box and let them sit. These are the kind of finds that you want to get, that you think about when you go to yard sales. You're like, I'm going to find someone who has, all these crazy mint cards, and they're just going to be pristine condition. Every now and then, if you stick around in the hobby long enough and you're selling constantly, you're going to run into that. But it's really, really rare, and I imagine it's going to be getting a lot harder. Some of these are errors. You see right there, those don't have the jungle symbol. For some reason, this angle is killing my forearm. So if the cards get a little shaky, I will apologize ahead of time for that. Maybe when we get to the PSA cards, it won't be as bad on my forearm. And I just love that hollow pattern that base, jungle, and fossil have. I was really hoping that there might be some galaxy hollows in here for the unlimited fossil that I have, but there aren't any. I have looked at them already. This is one of those collections where I just like to keep going through, looking over again and again and again. But eventually, if you want to stick around in the hobby of selling in Pokemon, then you have to do exactly that. You have to sell. There are times when I buy things that I know that I need for my collection, but I tell myself, what, if I buy it, it's going to put me in a tight spot for money, so I'm only going to buy it with the intention of selling it as soon as I get it. And I'll cut a deal if I need to, because it's going to turn a profit. But you can't always sit on something for years and years and years, and that's what I do with a lot of my common and uncommon inventory. That stuff I don't usually pay a lot for, so it's not really like an inventory or cost of goods kind of deal if you're having to deal with the tax part of it. But the money does add up over time. I might sell 2 Pikachus from base set in the span of 3 or 4 months. Let me put that down. But each one of them is going to be almost all profit. I won't have a whole lot of cost in on those. And if somebody buys extra cards along the way, like they say they buy a Revive and a Pikachu and a Squirtle or something, those extra cards that they buy are really going to help out with the profit, because you don't have to worry about paying for the stamp again. But usually when somebody buys something for 99 cents on eBay and that's all they buy, you almost break even after you factor in the stamp, the cost of the PayPal transaction, the eBay fees, you know, and then the time that you put into it. I'm hoping for some Alakazam PSA 10s. Again, all of these I've already looked at. I've checked front and back. You know, I think they're going to get at least an 8 from PSA. Some of them look like they could get 10s. He said that he went through and he didn't think that these would get 10s, so he may have saw something that I didn't. But maybe with the sheer volume, a few slipped in, or maybe PSA will hand out a few 10s with them. Wizards of the Coast Holos are really hard in getting PSA 10, especially the first 3 sets. There's chipping along the edges, there's whitening on the backside, there's curving of the foil, there's all kinds of things that could have went wrong that could have just progressed with time. And this will be it for the raw cards. And then we're going to go into the PSA side of it, which we'll go through those a little slower, but because they're a lot thicker, there's definitely not as many. I'm going to set these off to the side. I don't want to hit them. Or hit the stack and then it go flying off into the floor somewhere. So there's actually some cards not even on camera. We'll start with those. I'm going to put them in sleeves as we go. First up, we have a first edition Doug Trio, PSA Mint 9. Then we have an Electabuzz, also first edition. This is a PSA 8. And if you're interested in any of this, feel free to send me a message. If you're looking for something that's immediately available to purchase, let me push this up again. Then I have a description in every one of, or not a description, a link in my description for every video. Usually the first one is to my eBay store, which would let you see pretty much everything that I have for sale on eBay. I also sell on Troll and Toad and a few other places. But if you ever do go shop on my eBay shop, then it's helpful if you click that link in my description, because what that does is it directs you there, but it lets eBay know you were directed there from a link that I posted somewhere else, and actually I can make a little bit of commission off of it, so I save on my fees. It's not much. I mean, they don't really give you a whole lot, but if you like I said, if you click that link before you go to to go to eBay before you make your purchase, then it'll help me save some. It's not really going to change your price all that much on eBay, but like I said, it'll help me out. In fact, if I think what I was going to do, if anyone on here went to my eBay site and you made a purchase of $10 or more, just send me a message. I mean, I'm not telling you to buy anything specific, but if you do, just send me a message and I'll send you one of these free Detective Pikachu stickers. I mean, they're pretty big. It's 4.5 by 5 inches. They seem to be pretty good quality. I forgot the SKU number that was supposed to be on them, but it wasn't. So I've got a Haunter. I think all these are 8s and 9s. Now, when you do make the purchase, make sure you send me a message and let me know that you're from YouTube and you're looking to get a free Detective Pikachu sticker. Also, if you're ever on eBay and I don't message you back immediately, you'll probably get this it's like an auto response kind of telling you that. Because on the weekends, man, sometimes I can be super busy. But usually after 5 o'clock, I try to get off and spend time with my family. Which means I'm not always readily available to answer questions for people once they get off work. It's kind of like a backwards schedule. That's why I do the premieres during the day too. Because, I mean, this is my job. This is what I do for a living. So my job is still kind of like an 8 to 5, but instead of me getting off and being able to get on YouTube and answer questions, it's kind of like the opposite. As soon as I get 5 o'clock rolls around, then I'm spending time with my family, cooking supper, feeding the dogs, you know, that kind of stuff, playing outside. So I'm not really looking at my phone or computer anymore because I've done it all day long. I'll try to answer every question I can in the morning when I can. So I'm going to finish out the uncommons here in a second. But first I'm going to move this first stack all the way back over here. Eradicate was always an easy PSA submission. You could find it fairly easy too. Same thing with the seal. Not too hard at all to find on eBay. They were always a little bit cheaper, uncommon. Now Wartortle, he's a tough one to get in a Gem Mint 10. I've had so many 9s, and I think this stamp may actually be a gray stamp, which if you're in the community, it's not that big of a difference. There are some people who collect them, but for me personally, I mean, I'm not too crazy about them. It's just a lighter stamp. There are some people who hardcore collect the thick stamps for the holos just so that they match the set for the because almost all of the non-holos are thick stamped. Occasionally you'll find a thin stamped one, which I don't know. I was told by the print production manager it's just a difference in ink layering, but I don't know. It does seem pretty significant that it would only be on the holos that you can find that thick stamp. So I don't really know what's going on there, but you can occasionally find them on non-holos. I think SM Pratt had a Wartortle. Someone else had a Pikachu that they sold for like $650 or something crazy. So far, everything I've shown you for PSA is base set, and it is a non-holo. It's first edition, base set, non-holo. Now we do have some Pikachus in here. Let's check for the back side. And what I'm checking on the back side is there's a first edition stamp right here. So some of the sheets, when they were laid on top of each other like that, the ink from the first edition stamp hadn't dried yet, so it got onto the back side of the card. I know a few people who are looking for a first edition back stamped Pikachu. And then this one right here, this is also a PSA 9, but if you look at it, it has the red cheeks. Let me check, see if it has a back stamp. Oh, wait a minute. So if you look between my fingers, you can actually see a partial first edition stamp. So that's pretty cool. Got a red cheeks Pikachu, I'm just mint 9, and then it has the partial backside stamp. Looked to be a rough mint 9 though. These were graded, see, 25,514,311. So these were graded several years ago. They weren't graded in the past few years. I know PSA used to be a little bit less strict. When I first started, which was in 2008 or 2009, PSA side probably about 2009, they weren't as strict with their 9s and 10s then. I've heard from other people that they used to be super strict, you know, right at the beginning, but I wasn't around then. I was probably a kid. Right when Pokemon first come out, I mean, I was happy just to have a Bulbasaur or a Kabuto. I think Kabuto was my first card. I'd go to lunch and I'd bring 50 cents with me, try and find a card that I could buy. And I loved trading back then. It was always fun. Alright, so there's our second stack down. Some of you who know much about the set, and you're probably following along, and you know that after Voltorb, you get into the rare trainers. So first up, we have a Clefairy doll. Now we've got us a computer search. So if you opened up a first edition base set booster pack off of eBay, nowadays you would probably get a non-holo. I mean, your odds were already 3 to 1 that you were going to get a holo versus a non-holo, where you only had 1 chance in 3 roughly to get a holographic card. But with so many people who have weighed out the packs, it's very likely that you're going to get a non-holo. And then as for the rares, I think there's 16 total rares, with 10 of them being trainers. This is the best possible pull you could probably have is like a Dragonair, or maybe even something like this, a Last, because Last is really tough to get in Gem Mint 10. But a lot of people hated pulling trainers. I never liked pulling a trainer out of a pack. I mean, it's already bad enough you didn't get a holo, but then you pull a trainer. Trainer is your rare. Man, back then that was just no dice. Super energy removal. This is one that you could find about in every other pack, it seemed. Super energy removal, Clefairy Doll. Yeah, I think those are the two main ones that I would see a lot of. Got some energy retrieval. Whew, a lot of PSA cards to go. And we're not going to go into that very back stack. Some of you could probably tell that those ones off to the left are quite a bit thicker than this other PSA stuff. There's a reason for that. It's not individual cards. It is actually something completely different. And that's going to be another video. It's one of my longest submissions that were out. I just got that back on Saturday, April, what was it, 6th? I'm not even sure of the day. I think it was April 5th maybe. And it was entered into PSA system on October 10th. So, I mean, I sent it in sometime in September of last year. It was entered in October 10th of last year. And then finally, I got it back. Professor Oak. This card was basically reprinted as Juniper and Professor Sycamore, which is no longer in print, or no longer in rotation. This will be the last stack of non-holos, and then everything after this stack on out should be holographic. So that was a Super Potion. Never really used much Super Potion when I was playing old decks. And Revive. I didn't like Potion either. Now Bill and Energy Removal. Now those were good. Everybody ran Bill and Energy Removal. This one right here, Gust of Wind, I completely underrated this card when I used to play my old decks. I'd never stick it in there. I guess it was because everyone had Gust of Wind. But when it come out as Pokemon Catcher, then it was like a big deal. And I didn't realize it was just a Gust of Wind. Cool deal. I also, I don't even know if I can show this. It's a big box. I don't know if you can see that. He also had a decent amount of sealed promos. And there was some other stuff that was sent too that I'm not going to show in this video just because I think this one's already going to run pretty long with just the PSA stuff that I'm showing. And then, of course, all the holos right there at the beginning. He sent, it was 3 theme decks that were opened, but they pretty much had everything inside. Like a full holo tops Mewtwo movie set. There was some random coins, some random Japanese stuff, some gold bars. I can't remember what else there was. So we'll start off with this first stack, which this is the lower grade holos. I think this was, he basically said, hey, I've got 19 sub PSA 8. It's like 8 in lower base set holos. And to speed things up just a little bit, what I'll do is I'll show each card and then I'll go back and sleeve it on my own time. I didn't give a whole lot for these just because it's easy to find base set holos in PSA graded condition on eBay. You can find many of the 9s for $25 or less, which is crazy if you think about it. I mean, that's like a mint card. Probably better than what you could pull out of a pack. And then it's graded mint 9 and you can get it for 25 bucks. Even the Charizard, I think it's what, about $225, 200 bucks, something like that. I mean, that's not a lot. Now, if you pull the 10, of course, the price is going to go up quite a bit. as is with anything. But there's still several base set holos that you can get in PSA 10 condition for like 75 bucks. The main reason for that was there was a lot of base set printed. I mean there was a whole lot of base set printed. It's kind of like Evolutions, man. They printed that set into the ground. People loved it. I mean, even now, I mean, you got to think about it. People, they want that base set booster pack, even if they know it doesn't have a holo in it. They're willing to pay 90 bucks for a pack. There's an old 8.5. I never liked that grade. Got Venusaur. Got a Blastoise. It's probably, I think this whole stack was nothing but starters that were sub 9 grades, so like 8.5 all the way down to, you know, whatever. You had a lot of Blastoise that were graded. And these are all 8s. And that's about the typical condition you could expect from a card that you pull out of a pack. It's about an 8. Sometimes, I mean, if you get lucky, you've got something that's 9, 10 quality, and it's probably going to pull a 9, even if you think it's perfect. It's probably got some kind of chipping along the edges, some kind of little line in the holo, or whitening anywhere on those 4 corners or another edge. And then even if it seems like it's missing all that, there could be something on it that just makes it less appealing to the grader, and then they don't give it a 10. And then that's all ignoring the fact that you still have to have good centering for it even to qualify. And that's why I like sticking stuff straight on into the PSA sleeve. Glad that was a 7. Alright, so we're going to go in order with these. So we're going to start off with the Blastoise. I don't think he had any Alakazam PSA 9s. So I don't have enough here to make a complete set. Wait a minute. Look at that. It's a red Dot Blastoise. See that right there? Several of these Blastoise that were printed had a red dot on there. I remember the first couple of red Dot Blastoise that I had, it was like, I was collecting errors pretty hard at the time. And it wasn't very well known, the errors out there, other than like the Wartortle and the Ninetales. I believe it was Rock Carolina. It was Brian at Rock Carolina who found the Ghost Pikachu. So that was really cool. He ended up getting 4 of them at once. And that's what led everyone to believe that it was from a theme deck. But there was a couple that were like just on base set holos that it wasn't like it was something that was super repeated. It was just kind of like an ink bubble, like the first edition Butterfree. Chansey has like this little thing that's up at the top, similar to Clefairy, who has a heart on the top side, and then, you know, Haunter has the smear in its holo, and then Blastoise. There is some with the stage error, but there's also what I just showed you. There's many of the Blastoise with a red dot over his energy symbols. Now, what I would think would be cool is if you found a Blastoise that was a no stage error and had the red dot issue. Look at all these Charizard PSA 9s. Man, I was looking over these. Several of them look like they could have gotten a 10. But I don't know if I've ever broken out a 9 from the case. It's tough to redo a grade like that. I mean, Mint 9 is already up there. I mean, it's just one step below the highest that you can get. And usually there's a reason that something's put as a 9. And on old Wizards of the Coast holos, I'd be afraid if I broke all those 9s out that they'd come back all as 8s or 7s. But this guy had a pretty good back stock of these PSA cards. I think he knew that these aren't as fast movers as you think they'd be. I mean, I sell a pretty good bit of PSA cards on my eBay just because I have a lot of traffic that goes through there. But there'll be many of these cards that you see sitting for months and months and months, and it's not like they're unreasonably priced. I try not to ever price any base set holo that's PSA 9 below $29.99, but at times that's not even competing. Like this Magneton, I bet you can find it for less than $30 on eBay right now. So I mean, why would someone come buy it from me when they could buy it for 30 cents less? I can give you a couple reasons, but that's kind of the train of thought that people see when you're looking on eBay, because you sort by the lowest first, and you want to save every dollar that you can because you're protected as a buyer through eBay's system as well as through PayPal. PayPal is kind of crazy on how much they protect you. On to Mewtwo. So now we're over halfway through the base set Holos. This is all the PSA 9 stuff. And again, I wouldn't tune out just yet. If you're bored with these PSA Holos, we're not going to be on them too long. But at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a preview into what we're going to be opening on the premiere that I will show at Wednesday, 12:30. Someone, he didn't actually ship this stuff until I think it was Saturday, because he was he didn't have a box that he wanted to send in. They wanted to send in something, but he wanted to send in some stuff just to see it open. He actually sent me a note, and I'll read the note, and then we'll look at the stuff that we plan to open. And everything will be going back to him, unless we pull something really cool. I think what I'm going to do is, like, if we pull some good cards, then I'm going to submit them to PSA for him, no cost. Because he wasn't even asking for the 10% that I was offering for, like, opening up vintage booster boxes. Had a lot of Ninetales, had a lot of Poliwrath. I assume all the Ninetales were from, because there's a lot of Brushfire themed decks out there. Kind of same thing with the Hitmonchan and the Mewtwo. And I know that there was a lot of Poliwrath. I always thought he was a bit underrated, but you can kind of see why. It's not like he's a starter. It's not like he was one of Ash's Pokemon. He wasn't popular, that much with Misty. And then his attacks weren't super standout. He didn't have a cool ability, but he wasn't that weak either. I mean, he had 90 HP, which was pretty good, pretty high up there for the original Pokemon. And then his attacks weren't terrible either, with 30 plus and 40 damage. But it wasn't no Gyarados, it wasn't a Blastoise, it wasn't anything like an Articuno, where it was a legendary bird and still hits you with a Blizzard for 50 damage. It was just Poliwrath. A solid card you can pull. Alright, last stack for the PSA stuff. So now we're on to Raichu. Raichu does really well. I used to love pulling Raichus from booster packs. I had a lot of these in my binder. I like this version. I like the fossil version. Of course, I like the base set version better. But I like the reprint in Legendary Collection, First Edition, Shadowless. Always thought Raichu was a pretty solid guy. I never was able to get the pre-release Raichu, but that's okay. I mean, it's probably a good thing anyways. A lot of people who sell that are either scammers, or they're probably going to get ripped off by someone who is scamming. But now we're on to the last of the big three. We got the Venusaur, several Mint 9s, and then the very last holo of the base set was the third legendary bird, Zapdos. And the other two legendary birds were not even introduced until the third set, which was Fossil. And of course you had Articuno and Moltres that come through then. I get a lot of questions from people, where's the Snorlax? I remember him being in the original set, but not all the Pokemon were introduced in the original Pokemon set. It was actually just 69 Pokemon that were introduced in base set. Or maybe been 70. I think it was 69. So, here's the note I got. It said, "Hey Rusty, thank you for everything you do for the community. I hope you enjoy opening these blister packs and pull some holos for the channel. I'll be looking forward to your next upload." And then he signed it G. So he sent some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to show you. Alright, here's our first blister pack. It's Power Keepers. So many of you have been asking for me to open up EX series stuff. I don't have a lot of EX series stuff. I've always been a Wizards of the Coast collector. So the fact that he sent some EX series stuff is nice, because now we're going to open that up on camera. And then if you look in here, it looks like there's a Pop Series 2 booster pack. And then of course we had the Wobbuffet promo from Pop Series 4. Pop Series 4 was purple. Pop Series 3 was blue and green. Or like a... yeah, it was blue and green, but it was like lighter. And I think Pop Series 2 was the full deep green that you see there. Next up we have an an EX Delta Species blister pack. So again, another blister pack, which is, I mean, there's really no difference between a booster pack and a blister pack, but I just think there's so much cooler for coming from blister pack. It makes it a lot harder to weigh because you're not going to have as many to compare against. You can't just do it straight out of a box. So that's cool. So we got 2 EX series items open up. Then we also have an Expedition booster pack, which again is another blister. So I mean, we're talking about some seriously decently rare stuff here. I mean, each one of these packs, I know the Expedition blister pack is worth at least $100, probably even more, just because the Expedition booster pack is worth $100. So the blister pack has probably got a 50% premium on that. And then if you look here, we also have a base set blister pack. And again, you used to be able to tell by looking at the side if the pack was thick or if it had a bow, then it probably had a hollow in it. And you know what? This one looks pretty thick, so I'm thinking there might be a hollow in here. But it's been a while too, so I mean, who knows? But that's not all. We also have, it's like a blister pack that contains a theme deck, and then it also contains 2 more booster packs. Again, these are EX series. We got EX Team Magma and Team Aqua, and then I don't know what's back there. I could probably figure it out if I looked at it from the side. It may be another EX series, it may be Diamond and Pearl, I really don't know what it is. So maybe put down in the description what you think that pack is, just give it a good guess. And then last, we also have another blister pack, which is a theme deck, EX Delta Species, and then we have 3 booster packs over here. And I see one is EX Deoxys, and then the other 2 I'm not going to reveal in this video. We'll open up all of this stuff in the premiere that'll start on Wednesday around 12:30. So don't miss out on that. Make sure to show up. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for this channel. If you sign up for notifications up there in the top, you'll get an email from me right about 30 minutes before the premiere is about to start, just so that you can see it. And that should be around lunchtime for some of you, and then for others who can't hit it during the premiere, you'll be able to watch it later on afterwards. So anyways, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and be on the lookout. Thanks.